So I want you all to go ahead and take a little gander down below this video. As you can see by the number of views, I'm not quite to the point where doing this can support me, so I am required to have a day job. Now, normally my day job is fine, passes the time, and I can totally tolerate it. But for some reason, this week was like a 5-day-long boxing match against Mike Tyson. Except Mike Tyson's a bear, and the bear is made of badgers. The badgers are on fire. So I apologize this week if I'm short or grumpy or just kind of lower energy, or if I drink more. Like I can drink more. The best part about doing that joke is I had to pour 2 drinks for it, which means I get to have 2 drinks. This week is getting better. So back in 2011, a movie called Drive was released. Now, Drive was based off a book by James Salas. The summary of the story is, a man who is the corporeal manifestation of handsomeness basically goes around being the world's most awesome car dude. That seduces single moms by being Ryan Gosling. That's kind of all you have to do. James Salas must really love this story, because now he's told it in book form, in movie form, and now we're getting it in comic book form. I never read his book, but I really did love the Ryan Gosling movie. I thought it was a really cool, like, disco noir movie. And when I heard it was getting a comic book adaptation, I was a little worried, because I didn't know really how well that was going to translate to comic books, and the comic book also doesn't really know how well that's going to transfer to comic books. No longer are small plot and character points really driven home through tiny detail. Instead, we kind of get battered about with little narration. And it's not abusive narration like it is in like Captain Canuck or Run, Love, Kill or some of the other books I've criticized for it. It's just enough to sort of undercut its own mission statement. There's also little subtleties to Salas' storytelling that don't work quite as well in the comic book genre. A lot of the movie's charm came from how it used the passage of time and silence and camera angle to sort of convey a point. For example, in the movie, there's a really effective scene where the Ryan Gosling character waits in the car for a robbery to take place, and we kind of see only from his point of view. Only information we receive is what he hears and sort of just the very vague visual cues he gets from what's going on inside the building. It's a borderline iconic scene. Incredibly effective and well shot in the movie, and it just doesn't land the same in comic books. In comic books, you really can't control how fast the reader is looking through your panels. You can't convey the passage of time quite as well, and you definitely can't build the same tension. So what was once an unbelievable scene kind of falls flat and is over in a page. Listen, a very important part of telling a story is deciding what medium to tell it in. You can't just sort of hedge your bets and tell it in every medium, because that doesn't work. Not every story works for every way to deliver a story. And maybe it is because, yes, this is the 3rd time we're getting this story, but I don't really think that's it. It's just more that doesn't quite fit. Now, having said all that, this is still actually a pretty goddamn enjoyable comic book, especially if you haven't seen the movie. I'd recommend you pick it up, because while, yes, Salas does rob a bit of the mysterious autistic caged lion feel the protagonist by making him narrate too much, he's still very interesting and for some reason very easy to root for, even though he's a total sociopath. And the charm and uniqueness of the world and story are still very much there. It's just all rushed and sort of ham-fisted in its pacing. Is it a perfect execution? No. Does it do a lot of things right? Hell yeah. And if you're a fan of the series, or you're just sort of a fan of heisty action movies, yeah, get this comic book. It's worth checking out. Remember high school? Remember when you were in history class and you were learning about the Civil War? Remember how fucking boring that shit was? Well, if Jonathan Hickman had taught that history class, it would have been much more badass. His Civil War would have been like an 80s music video, seasoned with Book of Revelations mythology and fucking killer laser basketballs. East of West is an alternate take on how the Civil War could have ended. Instead of Appomattox Courthouse, we have a giant flaming ball of death smashing into the Midwest. And the United States of America separates into 7 different nations who all kind of hold a very tentative, backstabby peace. Oh, and did I mention the apocalypse is happening and all 4 horsemen are awake? Oh, and did I mention that one of the horsemen, Death, has gone rogue and seeks revenge against, well, everybody, and he is also Clint Eastwood. East of West is the wildest, craziest, most convoluted piece of science fiction storytelling in any medium right now. It's not afraid to go deep. It's not afraid to have multiple different subplots that sort of stretch out and weave through the greater plot. It is absolutely fearless in the way that it builds its own mythos. It doesn't feel the need to explain everything. Rather, it builds its world and history visually, relying on consistent aesthetic themes, subtle repeated imagery, and sort of coy references to build its world. Now, when this book started, it sounded like my dream project. Jonathan Hickman writing a Western that is also a post-apocalyptic space adventure. It couldn't be better if it was barbecue flavored and had knockers. East of West is not the best book on the market, but it's kind of my favorite, partially because of its bravery, partially because of its imagination, and parfully. I need more of this. If you're not reading East of West, it is the perfect trade waiter book. Because it's so convoluted and big and spinny, it kind of goes down nice in big chunks, and most of the collections are out. Please, if you're someone who reads in trade, get East of West now. Do it. Seriously, I'm gonna drink this. Hank Johnson, Agent of Hydra. I kind of love this book, even though it's really not that good. The main idea of this book is like taking the corporate mundanity of working at a company like a UBS and applying it to working at Hydra. Hank Johnson is a middle-class white dude with a wife and a bunch of kids and a bunch of problems and a mortgage and all that sort of stuff. And he's also an evil henchman for Hydra. And all the crazy bullshit that goes along with being an agent of Hydra sort of glossed over and filed away with the normal boring everyday crap like taking out the garbage. Having your coworkers killed is sort of analogous to having them fired in real life. Your kids play minor league baseball with people who also work at AIM and SHIELD and The Hand. And the normal everyday workplace dynamic is spiced up with crazy Marvel superheroisms. While the book is never laugh out loud hilarious, it's just funny and charming enough to connect with its readers. Titling this book after Hank Johnson is very appropriate because he's by far the most enjoyable part of the book. There's something really endearing by the fact that he's like a really involved father and a hardworking man and an incredibly henpecked husband, and he seems just so unfazed by it all. He's incredibly endearing, likable, and enjoyable to read about. And for the most part, his supporting cast of characters is the same way. You root for everyone, even the villains are likable, funny, and charming. The one weak part is his wife is really unlikable, and if the story has a villain, it's her. I think it's kind of harsh and inappropriate to drop the C word on this show. Let's just say his wife is a schmunt. If you're the kind of guy that connects with something like The Office or Trailer Park Boys or anything like that, the sort of everyday nonchalantness of this book will be really endearing to you. Nick Spencer's Ant-Man run has been really incredible, not because it embraces the kind of big, crazy comic book superhero-ness of the book, but rather because it embraces the real human, down-to-earth, and beaten part of the book. If you want to break it down, it focuses more on the man than the ant. And while yes, the Nick Spencer run will continue after the conclusion of Secret Wars, Ant-Man: The Last Days really feels like the conclusion to this story. It takes place during the final incursion that ends up destroying Earth and supersedes the construction of Battleworld. A local clairvoyant has foretold the end of the world. So everything Ant-Man does in this issue sort of hangs under the cloud of him knowing that the world is going to end and how he's going to spend these last days. And how Ant-Man ends up deciding to spend his last days is very true to the Nick Spencer form. It's grounded and how you and I would spend our last days. Now, normally in fiction, anytime someone knows the world's going to end or knows they're going to die, it kind of goes one or two ways. Either they want to spend their last moments in a loving embrace or actually inside the people they love, or they want to fucking drink and party their way to the end of the world. And in real life, you probably wouldn't do either of those. You'd probably kind of do something that kind of in the middle. And that's what Ant-Man does. He tries to go home. He tries to have that incredibly personal last moment with the people he loves, but like so many things in life, it just doesn't work out. And he's sad but realistic about that, and he decides, well, if I can't spend the last moments of life with people I love, I might as well take a really hot supervillain to Pound Town. So he does that, and it's exactly what you expected. It's fun, but empty. In all reality, not the way you want to spend your very last moments. Ant-Man's brutal honesty about the realities of being a mid-level superhero has always been one of its most enjoyable and raw qualities. And all of that is there. All of what I just talked about is balanced against the subplot of all of these old golden age heroes who are now in a retirement home being given one last day where they can be a real, true, young superhero in their prime. And in a way, I kind of feel like that's an analogy for what the Marvel Universe is going through right now. The last true golden age where comic books are just comic books, where they're not existing in some sort of grander popular zeitgeist, and they're not existing in line with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where they're just themselves. That time is over. We have a new, built from the ground up Marvel that is, at least in part, designed to run along with the movies and the merchandise and this sort of new reality of comic books. But here, in our last days, we get one last view of the waning hours of Golden Age comic books. The last moments of comic books, or at least main publisher comic books, being just that. Not tools, or merchandising, or licensing, or any of those things. Just comic books. And it's really fucking sad and effective, and Nick Spencer doesn't get talked about as one of like those high tier writers, but he's doing everything he can to get up there. He's sort of a Matt Fraction light, and with Matt Fraction taking a lot of time off from Marvel and main publisher books, I feel like Nick Spencer's really going to sort of fill in that void. And yeah, so Ant-Man Last Days is surprisingly emotionally effective and deep and smart and really goddamn funny. All right, I am nowhere close to running out of bourbon, but I'm extremely close to running out of power on my recorder, so let's try to power through this last part of the episode. Normal end of episode stuff. Make sure you like, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and thank you so very much for supporting the show, for supporting me, and for all of your absolutely wonderful feedback. Now that I've thanked you for what you've already given me, I would kind of like to ask a little bit more from you, and it may not be in the way you're suspecting. I kind of have a big announcement about the future of me, of Cody, and of Video Game Time Machine. We are going to launch our own website. It's going to be a website that does, well, what Video Game Time Machine does. A lot of analysis of pop culture, comic books, video games, and movies, but mixed in with silliness, humor, and an incredible self-awareness of how not important all of this is. Me and Cody both work 50-hour weeks. We both put a lot of time into the show, and we still only get, like, on an incredibly awesome week, 3 videos out, normally just 1. So how the hell are we going to create content for a channel and a webpage? Well, here's what I'm asking you guys for. We are looking for people who are willing to contribute to the website in writing, in commentating, in making videos, and doing, honestly, whatever the fuck you want. Specifically, we're looking for people who can do written reviews of comic books, video games, and movies, and are also able to editorialize on those same industries. I only asked for help with this from you guys because I know how smart and well educated you are on these things, because I've seen them in the comments. I know you guys have a lot to say about comic books, about video games, about pop culture, and about life. I trust that you guys have the skill to articulate what you guys are thinking about these things. If you guys are interested in becoming part of Video Game Time Machine, go ahead and either message us on the channel's Facebook page, or you can go ahead and email us at videogame.tm@gmail.com. I really look forward to making this a community and a family, and for you guys being part not only of viewing the show, but being part of this, of what we're trying to do. And no, we cannot pay you. I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way right now. We are poor. But we can give you a forum in which you can promote yourself, promote your work, promote your skill. Everything you do on Video Game Time Machine, you will be allowed to link to your own content, to your own person, to your own Twitter, and you will be given a forum in which you can prove yourself to the industry. So I really look forward to doing this. I have not been this excited about, honestly, anything in a really long time. So I look forward to hearing from all of you. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, doing YouTube stuff. Also, follow me on Twitter. I guess that's a thing. If every new subscriber get this week, I will finish a glass of whiskey. Just kidding. I'm already going to finish way more glasses of whiskey than we're going to have subscribers this week. Make sure you come back next Sunday and every Sunday till the end of time for the episode of The Pull. Now get out of here and go create. Don't just consume. Create. The start of a hell of a ride.